Good afternoon, good morning, everyone. This is Jason Noble, and this is I think our 12th or 13th episode of the Jason's Take On. So we've been going a year now and really excited to be talking to everyone in this October episode about building and aligning your customer success services with integration and channel partners. I know it's something that comes up a lot in conversations, particularly as organizations are dealing with multiple vendors and partners they're working with. So as normal, a bit of housekeeping, we're targeting about 30 to 35, 40 minutes for the length of the webinar. This is a live podcast, so there's not going to be any slides that we present as part of this. And the recording will be available afterwards on all of your favorite podcast recordings on Apple, iTunes and SoundCloud, and on YouTube. And please ask questions as we go along. We will do our best, subject to time, to answer them at the end. So please put the questions in the Q&A window within the Zoom interface, and you can also put them in our LinkedIn group or on our Twitter handle, so please do ask any questions there. We want to keep the conversations growing, following on from the podcast here. And do remember, for all subscribers, if you've signed up for our email newsletter, we do periodically send out information and tools that we think you're going to be finding really useful, so keep an eye on that. If you've not subscribed, please do. Right, and I will kick us off with this. So I'm Jason Noble. As I said, I'm based in the UK, in London. I'm currently the VP of Global Customer Success for Vinley. Vinley is a connected cars organization, technology organization based in Dallas. It's a startup organization about 5 years old. My role is to build out, create our customer success function, looking after our global customers. So really exciting time for me to be in the business. I've been in the customer success space for probably about 10, 15 years now, formally in customer success for about 7 or 8 years, but all of my career has been themed around the customer in different roles, from customer service, customer support, project management, service delivery, account management, pre-sales and business development, and then all really neatly come together into this world of customer success as we've seen it grow and evolve over the last 8 or so years. So I'm super excited to be having another conversation here with Jason, be able to share some of our learnings and kind of listen to the questions that you guys have got here. So really super excited to be here. Jason, I'll let you kind of do your intro.
Great, thank you. Hi everyone, my name is Jason Whitehead, based in the Washington, DC area over in the US, obviously. Been working in customer success and software adoption for over 20 years now, providing a range of training consulting services to both buyers of software directly who are looking to build in their internal success and adoption teams, as well as to customer success teams and software companies looking to build out their CS capabilities. So really excited to be here. Love doing these shows with Jason. Can't believe it's been 12 already. As you know, our tradition, we like to challenge everyone to be a bit bold going forward. So our challenge question for you is, how do you get to align, or how do you align your CS services and capabilities with your customers, other vendors, and their integration partners to ensure that you have an effective end-to-end experience that really is delivering the customer outcomes across all integrated applications and services? So a bit of a mouthful there, but I think it's really important to think about that you need to look beyond just your own personal or individual CS services to really think about how you integrate those with your customers. And I guess that sort of leads to our first question for you, Jason. Why are we even talking about integrating your CS program with channel and integration partners? And why do we need to worry about other companies' CS programs?
I think this is something that probably only a few years ago we wouldn't have even considered thinking about. And I know when we've spoke about it, it's something that it's almost an unusual thing to talk about. And I think one of the big things that you're seeing is that customers are shifting their focus away from individual products and vendors, and it's about business outcomes and this whole idea of the outcomes economy, and that those outcomes and values for them as a customer aren't aligned often to just one solution, one technology solution. So I think it's super important that we as partners and technology providers understand that full value chain of what our customers are doing. And really it's that full stack of products that delivers the full value to the customer. So you've really got to look at that overall customer value chain, not those individual silos that historically I think we've done. And as I said, it's probably only the last 2 or 3 years that we've been now started to think about this and focus more on outcomes. And technology services, you know, with customers absolutely have multiple solutions, multiple vendors. We have to work with other partners, with other technology partners, sometimes with ones that might be competing but not direct competitors with us. And I think you can't as a vendor be successful yourself working in isolation and just looking at your product. You've got to look at it and consider it from your customer's perspective and different stakeholders in the customer and all of the technology and services they're dealing with. And I think a great quote here, you know, a chain is only as strong as its weakest link. And we're part of a chain, and it's a value chain for the customer. So we've got to step beyond just us and think about that bigger picture for the customer. And there's been there is still going, there's this business shift here. So, you know, when you look at kind of your SaaS models, the shift out to the cloud, it isn't just us and our customers that are more tightly aligned and working closer together. And that if we both succeed, we succeed very well. If one of us fails, we both fail together. So it's about doing it together. But you're also linked very tightly with the performance of other vendors. And that, I think, is something that you have to be very, very conscious about. And you want to understand how they work, how they integrate and interact with your customer, where they fit in the value chain, what the challenges they've got. And so how can you work with the other partners and channel partners to drive a lot more value for your customer? I don't know if there are any thoughts that you wanted to add on to that, Jason.
Yeah, I wanted to share a quick story actually of when I was working with a client that was doing a large multi-year CRM implementation. And one of the things that they encountered, they had multiple systems integrating in, you know, a billing system was integrated in, and, you know, middleware and a whole bunch of other great things there. And they had some technical and performance issues with one of the vendors that really threw a hitch in the sketch, and it delayed the project by many months, maybe even a year or so, and cost millions and millions of extra dollars that they were going through. And in the end, this one vendor, they ended up firing them. They just said, look, we can't make it work. You're not performing the way we need you. We're not delivering what we need to do. But as a result of this one vendor, all the other vendors were negatively impacted. You know, the project went live much later. There were additional costs for them. The vendors that the way they were working out the contract, a lot of their sales revenue wouldn't be recognized until the project went live when they were actually having the user licenses come on. So one vendor really delayed revenue for them for well over a year, as well as delaying any potential upsells and expansions that they might have had. So it really just shows you how much risk you have when you're in these big integrated projects that, you know, they could have canceled the entire project, not just fired the one vendor, but it could have been everyone was out. So I think one of the key issues that you need to look at is, you know, you've got your risk, you have this new risk for your success based on the performance of your other vendors and partners that, you know, and you may or may not have a relationship with them. It could be that your client came in and said, we want these 3 systems to integrate that have never integrated before. So this may be very new to you and to your partners. And in some cases, the whole project may go away. So you really need to think about that and say, you know, how do we mitigate this risk that comes from other partners being out there?
That's really interesting, and I think having that kind of story really brings it to light there, because it's how you work with all of the different partners that is so important here, and I think it ultimately contributes to your customer's success. I'm going to push the next question back to you, Jason. When you've got lots of different vendors now having their own different customer success programs, services, the different ways of working, the different standards, as we've talked about before, about there is no kind of one common standard yet for customer success. But how do these impact the customer when you've got different programs, different ways of working? What does it mean for you? How do you work to help your customer understand these differences?
Yeah, you know, and I think that's one of those moments where you really need to put your head in the customer's perspective and really understand what's it look like from their view. And, you know, your customers are getting exposed to so many different competing CS services from all the different vendors. And they're all competing for their time. They're all competing for their attention. Everyone wants to do a business review. Everyone wants to have that closer relationship with them. And your customers quickly learn which ones are adding value to them and which meetings are worth their time and which services are both a waste of effort and not worth what the vendor is marketing them as, and certainly not worth their time. So you need to be out in there. You're competing against all these other vendors. And sort of along those lines, we talked about this in depth in our podcast in September. So if you haven't haven't listened to that one yet, go check it out. But if you think about this, if other vendors come in first and your customer have very different expectations about what customer success is, and your other vendors may do it very differently than you do, and they may offer different services and a different pricing model, all that great stuff. You need to get in there from the very start and really set expectations with your customer about how you work and what CS means to you and the services you provide and why you do it that way and the value that they get. You can't assume that your customers are just going to know this. You know, and even when other vendors haven't come in first, you really need to prove the value of CS and how it works and why they should give you their time and why they should participate in the program as you've designed it. So there's always this likelihood that if your customer, they're seeing a lot of different services. If they are more impressed with the services of another vendor and they don't really see the value that you're delivering, they're going to push on you to deliver the same service. They're going to push on you to do more than you're doing right now. And depending on what they're asking for, this may really not fit with your capabilities, and it may also not fit with your pricing and profit model. So suddenly things can get out of whack because of customer pressures. And I know a lot of times, customers demand stuff, and the executives or the salespeople are going to do everything they can to make those customers happy. So there can be a financial implication for that as well. So those are just some of my thoughts, but what's your perspective, Jason?
I think you've covered a really key point there, and is when you've got these different services from different vendors, if they're providing something that really aligns with what your customer's doing and it really fits their model, yeah, that for your customer becomes a kind of a benchmark for them. So how do you make sure that you're delivering at that benchmark and still it's a commercial way of delivering for you? That's so important. And I think you've got to be, as part of that, you've got to be so proactive and really get your customer on board with understanding why the way you're delivering customer success works and how it differentiates what it's doing. So really having those relationships really help with your customer. Now, of course, this assumes that we are providing a high impact customer success service. If we're not, and some of the other vendors are actually doing it better than us, then you've got to up your game yourself and look at how do we improve our services to make sure that we can reach that new benchmark that's been defined. And it's really important to do that. And of course, the flip side of this is if someone is doing it better than us, can we use them as a mentor to help us guide our program? We're not necessarily always going to be doing the best, but if there's people that we can learn from, how do we interact with them to help figure out how to do it better at this? And there is on the Jason's website, we have a free resource that you guys are more than welcome to have a look at. It's the Software Buyer's Guide to Evaluating Customer Success Service. So please do have a look at that. That can really help with some key questions that you need to be prepared for to answer from your customers. It can help give you some insight into that. I think the other thing to consider is that customers can use this as a price negotiation tool. And I've seen examples of even sales using it as a negotiation tool, which is the other flip side of that. But if you're not doing it well and not adding value, your customers may well say, we don't want customer success for you. We don't want these services, and use it to push down the price. So be very conscious about this. And if another vendor is doing it well and you can't compete, they can really start pushing you down for prices and your free services. So you've really got to make sure you're conscious of this and aware of this. So they're just a couple of other thoughts to add on.
Yep. Good stuff. So another question for you then, Jason. We used to talk how customers have complex and integrated platforms that involve multiple vendors and partners. How do you align your CS services across your partner? And what are some of the challenges to provide an integrated, effective experience for your customers?
I think the key word there is integrated. And I think what you've got to do is if there are integration partners, is you all have to work in an integrated manner, not just in terms of the technology, but relationships. So you're all part of a bigger whole here. So what you've got to do is make sure that you're building relationships with each of the partners outside of your customers to understand what each of their products are, where they sit. Don't forget, you're not necessarily going to be dealing with these partners just for this one customer. If there's synergy between how the two products and services and organizations work together, it's likely that you'll be working with other customers as well and other deals there. So be aware that you've got to maintain those relationships outside of what you're doing just for the customer. And you've also got to look at what are the outcomes that you're trying to deliver together. Working a partnership model helps you focus on what you want the customer to achieve together. And it's very different to focusing just on what we want the customer to get from our product. So it goes back to this understanding what are the business outcomes the customer is looking for? How do we articulate them at the right way, the right level, so that we understand what we're delivering, what our other partners are delivering, and how it all fits together, and ultimately how it drives that ultimate outcome and value to the customer. So again, it's taking that step back. And there is absolutely a lot of work to do to get this alignment right. And it isn't an easy thing to do. As I said earlier on, some of these other vendors and partners you're working with, they are potentially competing in different areas of the business. And sometimes you don't want to work closely. So it takes a lot of time to do this. There's a lot of work to get done. And you're not just integrating your product. Sure, there's the technical integration piece. We've all got APIs, software development kits. There's the technical integration side of it, but you've also got to look at your services integration. So look at professional services, customer support, customer success. service delivery, how do they all align? And this takes time, resources, and money. So you've got to make sure that commercially you're allowing for that in your commercial deals that you're doing with your customers. And you need to make sure that your business model related to that supports this, and that you'll recover these costs from yourselves to the customers. You know, these aren't things that we're going to do for free necessarily. It's how do we make sure that our models include that commercially there. And I think you've got to align your customer success services. And I think that's the key thing, is align them with each other. What's that right level of how we deliver? You touched on it earlier on, Jason. What does good look like for the customer in terms of customer success? So it's not on a engagement by engagement basis, but on a go-to-market basis. So really look at that alignment across the whole board there. Any thoughts that you'd add?
Yeah, just a couple of things. I agree with everything you said there. You know, I think one of the big things too is if you are in a situation where you're coming together as equals and you both have your own customer success services and you've both, you know, relative level of maturity of your CS capabilities, you know, then it really becomes, okay, how do we demonstrate to ourselves and the customer really where things are working well and where we complement each other and where there's some differences here. You know, and think of each other almost like your customer, and really go through that perspective and walk each other. And I recommend actually holding a meeting or several meetings without your customer to really get aligned in this, so you can put a common face to the customer. And this can be, you know, bring out a customer journey map and swim lanes and map out what services you need to provide as part of your customer success capabilities, and see if there's gaps or if there's redundancy in there as well too. You know, and keep in mind that, you know, each partner does provide services that the other doesn't, and you both need to know what these look like. So for example, if one customer success service does business reviews with executives on a monthly or quarterly basis, and the other one only does it, you know, annually, that's sort of a big difference in expectation. You need to explain to the customer why this makes sense, or you may need to change it either for all partner projects that you do together or for any given engagement. But really, you need to make sure that you're aligned from day one towards the shared goals and objectives, and they have a joint plan together how you're going to explain this to the customers so that the customer comes away confident in both of your services. And in many cases, that may even be explaining that because of the nature of the software, the product, or whatever happens, you don't need to deliver the exact same service in the exact same way, but together the experience for the customer is going to be effective and efficient for them. You know, and just something to think about there. As an example, I did a couple of projects with a partner company several years ago. First project, we came in, everything was great and wonderful. We had a great team, and the clients were extremely happy. And then we came back for the second one, and following on that same model, some of the team members got reshuffled to other projects, and we brought in new team members doing the exact same software, doing in the same type of organization. And there were just some competing perspectives or misunderstandings amongst the team members themselves that really made for a disjointed experience for the customer and for us. So really understand as well, it's not just mapping out what the services are, making sure that the people involved and the customer-facing staff are all aligned on what needs to happen. And then, and to your point earlier, that takes time. It needs to fit within the profit model. So those are just some of my thoughts on this one. So Jason, then I think the next question for you here is, how do you help partners and value-added resellers build their own competitive CS services that support your brand reputation? So this is sort of a different situation now. If you're, you know, the big leading company in there, but you rely on a lot of VARs and partners and things like that, how do you help build up the capabilities of everyone downstream from you?
I think it's really important to look at this, because you do. There are a number of large organizations out there. I think we were talking about kind of Cisco's model last week on this. But there are these big organizations now working with small technology startups, technology vendors. So you've got to look at how they work and just the size and scale of these different organizations. Things are very different in them. I think if you, as an organization and a provider in your customers' kind of value chain, have a proven customer success capability that you've seen successful with other customers, with other partners, you absolutely can help train and influence your partners on how you do customer success, what good looks like, the success you've seen with it, the success your customers have seen with it, and get them to align their program from the start. So you can really help these other vendors with the challenges that they're seeing around customer success. You can put in the requirements for the partnership that they have to build a certain amount of customer success service to then be a partner. So it could be a prerequisite even to working as a partner, that they've got to hit certain levels as to what customer success is. So define kind of a standard program as to how we work, and they've got to meet those expectations before we'll partner with them. And I've seen that in a number of different organizations, particularly the larger scale global organizations out there providing the likes of CRM services. I think as part of this though, if you are the bigger player in this value chain here, you've got the more mature customer success services, you're likely going to need to provide training, resources, and other materials to help smaller partners quickly develop the capability that you and your customer expect them to have and need them to have for everything to be successful and deliver those outcomes and value that we need. I think going back to the Cisco model here, if you really are an organization the size of a Cisco, now how do you help smaller companies build their capabilities and really question out what can you do to make them successful? That's really critical. The flip side, of course, is what if you're the smaller organization? What if you're a small technology player and you're working with one of these bigger partners and actually you've got the more mature customer success offering? What can you do to demonstrate how it delivers value for your customers, how it delivers outcomes for your customers, and help the other partners, although they might be bigger in terms of organization scalability, in terms of capabilities and commercials, how do you help them understand what they're missing and how they can learn from you? So you've got to think about it from that side as well. And if you're the smaller vendor, but seeing that you're better at providing customer success, similar to the other way around, you may have to provide training services, resources, materials to help the larger partner get aligned with you. And in that case, it's often harder to get the larger partner to shift their way of thinking. There's the whole change management process there. They may well have got things tied into how they've been working for a long time. It can be a lot harder for them to shift. But you've got to then get your customer on side as to what you're trying to do, get your customers part of that argument there to drive that value. So I think there's those two really key ways to look at that. Jason, I'll give you a question here then. How do we help customers work with multiple customer success managers from different vendors? And I know this is something that you and I have spoke about at length before. When you're seeing customer success growing like it is now, if I'm an organization that might have 10, 20, 30 different technology vendors, I potentially have that many customer success managers trying to get my time. How do you help customers work like that?
Yeah, I think that's going to be really important too, because sort of a shared customer experience here. And this comes back to a lot of stuff we've already talked about. But first, as the vendor, you need to understand the models of your other vendors and what the outcomes of which they're focusing, where are they going there, what services do they provide, and they really need to make sure they understand, what are the business outcomes everyone's focused on and how to get there. And I think one of the challenges is vendors tend to look at technology in isolation. They're focused on their system, they're focused on their piece, but now you need to come together to look at the bigger picture and sort of say, what's the overall business landscape? And how does your technology help it? And how does this help your customer? Because again, keep in mind what your customer is focused on is a business outcome. They don't really care about finger pointing of any one system. They want to know that the outcome itself is going to get there. And everyone sort of shares this responsibility. And in the example that I gave earlier, where the one vendor got fired because of non-performance, it impacted everyone else. So you do need to take that big picture perspective and say, we're not working in a bubble. There's some context here. And I think the other piece there is really recognize that you are competing for the time and the attention of your customer, and help your customers recognize that. And the more of an expert you are in the whole package of what's included, and can talk about the other technologies and how they're delivering value, you can add more value to your customer, and they'll want to spend that time with you. So it makes it that much easier for you to actually get the customer's time and attention. As we talked about too, I think there's this whole issue where this is putting new pressure on all customer-facing staff across all vendors to be very focused on business outcomes and not just the technology and not just their own system. Everyone's got to be really focused on it, and everyone needs to be comfortable talking to the customer to help them stay focused on the big issues and the outcome. And historically, this has been a very, very challenge here. But I do think too that the big thing though is early with your customer, and then reinforce throughout the relationship the expectation that they don't necessarily need every partner to provide the exact same thing, and that may be a waste of their time and resources as well too. But what you need is that complementary service that really ensures that the customer is getting exactly what they need from a service and a technology and a business outcome experience all the way through. How you get there may need to shift, but you don't need to do redundant tasks just to check the box that you've done them. So you need to make sure the customer understands, oh, that's not appropriate here because you've already done that, so let's save everyone the effort. And most customers, I think when you point that out to them, will really get on board. And I think ultimately what it comes down to is helping the customer focus on what's the best answer solution for them, what's the best service for them, how is what you're proposing get them the outcome that they want better, faster, easier than trying to do it some other way. And I think when you can get customers to see that and to understand it, then they're very happy to move forward. But it does take a lot of effort, and it's a very different approach than what most people are doing today. And most people today are not really thinking about how we partner on CS services. They're thinking about, how do I deliver this? How do I get the best relationship I can get with my customer just about my software so that they'll be my reference or they'll renew my system, all these things. And you sort of need to move from the me to we mentality, I think, around a lot of this. So those are just a couple of my thoughts. Jason, do you have anything you wanted to add there?
Yeah, I think this is something that we're only beginning to start seeing this, because customer success has become such a critical part of doing business now, particularly with SaaS, particularly with cloud platforms and other things as a service. I think this is it's probably only the last 6 months that we've become conscious of these challenges here, and how there are multiple ways of doing customer success and working with different vendors. And I think there's a stat that we quoted on one of the other podcasts, where in something like the marketing technology stack now, there are something like, if you go back only 6 or 7 years, there are only 20 vendors. There are now something like several thousand vendors, and vendors working together. So this is growing massively. So the complexity of this problem, I think, is growing as well. So the more we're aware of this and the interaction with different partners, I think the better place we are as partners and service providers for our own customers. And it also, I think the other thing that this, being a customer success professional as we are and our listeners are, it allows you, when you're working with partners yourself who are providing services to you, to know what you should be asking, how you should be guiding them in the right direction. I've seen that flip side there, where the services I'm sometimes getting from partners are not what they should be. They're not doing the right level of focus. And I think understanding the bigger picture here of why we're doing this and what value we're driving for our customers, for our partners, it really helps us frame that conversation, which I think is really good. And I think this is something that over time, we're probably going to see over the short term, the complexity of these challenges increase as people put more and more focus on customer success, put more focus on customer success managers. And I think beyond that, though, we'll see a shift back to kind of product-driven customer success, where it's less reliant on individuals. And I think we'll see more working together of the products, the integration side of it. So I think it's a really exciting area to watch right now. I think it's something that, as I said, I don't think we were really conscious of, wary of only a couple of years back. But it's something that I think we're still going to see a lot of evolution and changing over the coming years.
Yep, I think you're definitely right about that. And, the implications as well, too, that now as a customer success team, we don't need to just align with sales and product and marketing. We now need to align with partners and partner managers, and getting the executives to understand, when you're looking at partnerships or joint sales, this is one more layer we've got to factor in, and because we have to deliver it together.
And I think to our point earlier on, it's potentially huge as well, because it's something that you've never really thought of. And there's a cost to it, a resource cost, an effort cost. We have to work closer to our partners. And I think the closer you can do it as a technology group almost, the better positioned you are for future opportunities that come up. So I think it's something we're going to see a lot of challenges with. But as time goes on, I think this is going to open up a massive number of opportunities, which is going to be so exciting to watch.
Absolutely. Alrighty, well, we are just about out of time here, but if anyone does have any questions, if they want to go ahead and type them into the Q&A window, we'd be happy to answer them. And but like I said, I know we are almost out of time. And also, I think Jason, give them.
Yeah, if there's any questions, guys, please do let us know on LinkedIn. We'll kind of put any questions and feedback there. But again, a really, really great conversation. This was I think a difficult one for Jason and I to think about, just because we hadn't had that focus on it before. But the more we thought about it, the more relevant it seems to become. So I think, don't forget the kind of the bold challenge recap. So with all of these podcasts, we like to have a bold challenge. And this is, how do you align your customer success services and capabilities with your customers, other vendors and their integration partners to ensure an effective end-to-end experience that delivers customer outcomes across all integrated applications and services. A bit of a mouthful, but we'd love to hear your thoughts on that. What are you guys doing around that? What can you do with that over the coming months? And please don't forget, we've really enjoyed this. As I say, we've been doing it now for a year. Super excited about it. We're already starting to plan what we're going to do for 2020 in terms of conversations coming up. We are looking at guest podcast speakers to come and join us. So if you would like to join us for one podcast or know anyone that wants to join, please let us know. And don't forget our podcast next month, our webinar next month is on the 19th of November, where we're going to talk about product-led customer success, which is a whole other conversation that I'm really excited to get into that one and look at what does that actually mean and what does that mean for us as customer success professionals. Any closing words from you, Jason?
No, thank you so much. We really appreciate you joining us. And if you enjoy this, please share it with others and check us out, the podcast replays on SoundCloud and iTunes and all that good stuff, and give us a like if you enjoy it. Thank you so much. We really appreciate it. Bye now.
Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.